Haribol. Hari Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. You are welcome, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
Yeah, more devotees are still coming, so we can start. They will join as time goes on, Guru Maharaj.
All right. That's what happens, huh? Namo. No. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihar. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihar. Gopijana Balava Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Amunatira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Gopijana Balava Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Gopijana Balava Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vanachana Ranjana.
Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Gopijana Balava Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Yasodanandana Brajajana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunachira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kinjavia
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavia
Oh, okay, we'll stop there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskrit.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naratamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayam Udiraye
Tato Jayam Diraye
Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu
Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu
Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavad Utama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhavati Naistiki
Tatsu Bhavati Nice.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Sunivare Paschatya Desa Tarane. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. A little tricky, this lesson plan you gave me. If I have it up, I can't switch to anything else. Which is not normal. So we're talking about culture, specifically Vaishnav culture. Yeah, okay, I don't have to wait for translation. So today's lesson is application of Vaishnav culture and principles. So it's an interesting topic. Definition of Vaishnav culture is one of the topics. So first we'll just look at culture. The course aim is to cultivate aspects of Vaishnava way of life as presented in the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada used the word culture 7,000 times. He used Vedic culture 1,700 times, spiritual culture 500 times. Brahminical culture, 430 times. Bhakti cult, 150 times. And specifically saying Vaishnav culture, only 90 times. So here's a definition. This is from the Cambridge English Dictionary. Culture is the way of life, especially the general customs and beliefs of a particular group of people at a particular time. The word culture derives from the Latin term culture, which means to tend to the earth and grow, or cultivation and nurture. Now, we know that in the farm you talk about cultivating crops, right?
Yes, good, Maharaj.
And now there's a word cult. So a cult traditionally is not bad. It just means a group of people who follow a particular culture. But now the word cult has become like, do they use that word in Africa? They call it sect. They use cult, right? And
Yes.
cult is considered very bad. You know, you kidnap, brainwash people, make them do all kinds of criminal things. And so in science, there's macrobiotical culture, and food cultures, animal culture, socially transmitted and learned things in animals even. And then there's organizational culture, material culture, and archaeological culture. That means a reoccurring combination of artifacts. There's culture magazine, culture series, culture music. It's quite a big thing. And that's from Wikipedia. But just definition, there's many dictionaries. Culture is considered a central concept in anthropology, encompassing a range of phenomena that are transmitted through social learning and human societies. Another dictionary says, is the customary beliefs, social norm forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. Another definition from the Britannica Encyclopedia. Culture is contagious, as a prominent anthropologist once remarked, meaning that customs, beliefs, tools, techniques, folk tales, ornaments, and so on may be handed down. The existence and use of culture depends upon the ability possessed by humans alone. This ability has been called variously the capacity for rational or abstract thought, but in a good case, it has been made for rational behavior among subhuman animals. What has been termed a classic definition of culture was provided by the 19th century English anthropologist Edward Burnett. He says, culture so defined is possessed by man alone. The conception of culture served anthropologists well for 50 years. With the increasing maturity of anthropological science, further reflections upon the nature of their subject matter and concepts led to multiplication and diversification of definitions. So you see, it can be quite a big thing, you know. Considered So then we get the same thing repeated over and over again. It's a way of life, a culture that a different particular group has. Now the thing is, not everybody in any group will agree as to what their culture is, because there's many, many different varieties of people. Like, I won't give names, but I was once in the middle of two devotees in Africa, and we were talking about wife abuse. You know, beating up the wife and the man being a dominant alpha male or something. And one of them said, that's our culture. Everyone does it. It's just normal. And the other one said, no, no way. My father never beat my wife, and I never knew anyone who did that. And they couldn't agree, you know. So even though they're in the same so-called culture, they have different experience. There's different people. Ravana had his culture. So when Sita chastised him, you know, why are you kidnapping other men's wives and you're doing all those things and, you know, raping and stealing other countries? And he said, that's what's wrong with that. That this is our culture. This is Rakshasa culture. So, you know, everybody has different ideas. So it's a big topic that, from what I can see here, there's a lot of university courses about it. There's a lot of books written. One says defining the term culture is very challenging. It is a notoriously overbroad concept, an ambiguous concept. It is deployed in multiple ways and understood in multiple ways. But, you know, there may be similar things. But human society, you know, generally has, you know, more or less similar things. It should anyway. But Vaishnav culture shouldn't be that much different than proper human culture, you know, which would be respect for everybody ultimately, like Lord Chaitanya promoted. But at least, you know, respect for elders, respect for the law, respect for God, ultimately. It has to start with God. Wait a minute. So just let me find this. There it is. So Prabhupada said he was born in a Vaishnava family. So I was exposed to Vedic culture only. Krishna should be always remembered and not forgotten. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras are servants of these two principles. Remember Krishna and don't do things that make you forget Krishna. That one's a tricky one, you know, it sounds like it's the same thing, but it's not exactly the same. Remembering Krishna, avoiding things that will make you forget him. Because I know myself, I can be remembering Krishna 1 minute and then completely forget and do something that, you know, isn't exactly devotional service, and it's just a waste of time. It may not be sinful, maybe just some space out, but these things happen. So to remember Krishna, he's always watching every move. Religious principles according to time and place. Bhishma Dev knew religious principles perfectly according to time and place. Expert religionists know perfectly how to adjust religious principles in terms of time and place. At the great acharyas, religious preachers, reformers, they don't really change, but they're just like Prabhupada. He never changed the basic principles, but some of the external structures, way of dress, or, food, he wasn't, like people sometimes say Indian food or African food. I'm not sure about Africa. I know India, there's no really Indian food. There's South Indian food, North Indian food. And in all those places, there's vegetarian food and non-veg food. And there's Bengali food and there's Punjabi food and, there's Maharashtrian. Everybody is slightly different. There's similarities. Mostly they use chili, but it's not exactly the same. South India, all rice. In North India and Punjab, there's no rice. Puris and chapatis. So it's not exactly Indian. Africa, different states have different people, different tribes have different, as far as I know, nothing's exactly the same, even in the same family. There's changes in manner of worship. That's not faulty. Then there's niyamagraha. If you were in the nectar of instruction class, you heard that. Agraha means very eager to accept, and agraha means failure to accept. So if you say niyama agraha, it can mean either one of those things. Following the rules and regulations very enthusiastically, but maybe not with the motive of developing love of Krishna, and just to show off, or just to be able to live in the ashram and eat for free or something. But if someone else is not following, that's good. Blindly following, you might not end up at the end of the goal because you don't know who's leading you. Good blind following is you just somebody comes and says, "Follow me, I know the way," and you don't check them out, and then you end up being kidnapped, or both of you get lost somewhere. So Niyamaga says, in imitating without effect, just imitating someone who's following rules and regulations. That doesn't necessarily mean the four regulative principles, but the rules and regulations, regular sadhana, rising early, chanting the holy name, reading Prabhupada's books. And it can get complicated in detail. So then there's a topic here, which is probably the most important part of it, is appropriate attitude to application of Vaishnav culture. I was getting a lot of questions last week from Chinese. What should be the attitude when we're doing something, different things, if we're trying to, I think a lot of times they're talking about trying to correct a devotee who's not acting properly. And usually I say, well, you should check yourself, but what should be the attitude? I say, no matter what we're doing, our attitude should be Trinadapi Suni China Turapi Sishna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. That's our culture. That's Lord Chaitanya's example. How to understand that, a neophyte may not understand. People criticized Bhaktisiddhanta. They said he wasn't being tolerant because he so heavily criticized Mayavadis and Sahajas who are misleading people away from Krishna. And they're saying he's not being tolerant, he's not being humble like Lord Chaitanya's ordered. But actually that's supreme humility. To risk your reputation or your life or anything to protect the order of the spiritual master and to follow it. And that's the bottom line of our culture. So here it's saying, it's a weird PDF document. I can't do anything with it. A very small print. If one breaks the laws of etiquette, people make fun of him, and he's vanquished. Now, in what modern so-called society, etiquette sometimes really picky on things, and people will laugh at the country kid who comes in. If you sit down in some high class, so-called high class, and they have 3 different spoons and 4 forks, and you don't know which.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Like the Guru Maharaj network is frozen. Okay. Guru Maharaj, you are muted, Guru Maharaj. Your network was frozen first.
Yeah, I know, and then it automatically mutes. It's kind of a mystery. I don't know why that would happen, but it happened. So then society will be beneficial, at least by seeing our behavior. So if devotees are very nice etiquette, say even you're driving a car, I don't know how many drive a car, and somebody wants to turn into your lane ahead of you. If you slow down and let them enter, that's a type of etiquette. Doesn't hurt you, but many people, they won't do it. They just, they think no, and it's not very nice. The devotee is always trying to, etiquette, culture, trying to help people, always speaking sweet words, not insulting, In other words, the culture should be the mode of goodness. And Lord Chaitanya, many times when he refers to Brahminical culture, he says cow protection. The demons. Lord Chaitanya was talking to Haridas Thakur, and he said, I don't know what to do. these people are just dedicated against Brahminical culture and cow protection. So you kind of put those in, like that's what Brahminical culture is. And if people are protecting cows, they probably want to protect people also, you know. Except nowadays, like we had an incident with one of our farm projects. They got a lot of cows and they weren't really taking care of them, and some were dying in the winter. And in that part of America, it's really cold in the winter. It's hard to get food. Cows are out in the forest, and
Maharaj, you are muted again because your network went frozen.
there was
Sorry, what is
just
going on? Maharaj
collecting a
network
lot of
is
money.
okay.
The leader was collecting a lot of money and hoping to build big spiritual cities or something. And some cows were dying in the winter, freezing to death and starving to death. And he got arrested and charged with cruelty to animals. But the people who arrested him, they're raising animals strict only for food. So they were, obviously selling. They don't kill. Some of them kill themselves, but mostly they sell them to the animal meat processing companies. But they said, we kill the cows, but we take care of them. So we're better. You people, you don't kill them. You don't kill them, but you don't take care of them. You're letting them just die. So they're thinking that they're not cruel, that they have some love, So it's quite difficult to deal with such things, but that's the world, But Vaishnav culture, Trinadapi Sunechanavi, the more we dig into that, it covers everything. And there's many, the mode of goodness also is in the Bhagavad Gita, all the descriptions of the mode of goodness. You can go in the 11th canto and find much more details about, they're almost the same verses, but with more details of analogies. But if someone's acting fully in the mode of goodness, they'll always be polite. They won't get angry. They won't curse anybody. They won't, be that kind of people. And they'll be more concerned for the welfare of others than for themselves. So when someone asked Prabhupada, how can we recognize a Vaishnava? He said, you'll be a perfect gentleman. And so then other aspects of culture, dress is one thing, and but music, art, philosophy, personal behavior, these are all parts of culture. But there's animal culture, that's just raising animals, cultivating the land, cultivating a person. You say that, I think, with new devotees, we're cultivating them, trying to make them grow. You cultivate your garden, your farm, trying to make things grow. So to apply Vaishnav culture wouldn't be that much different than real proper culture. Although, like when I was raised in America, I don't know, I don't think everybody had the same idea, but cultures have big differences, Like we were taught how to hold the fork and the knife to cut your meat and how to cut it in small pieces and stuff and chew it up nicely using the fork and the knife. But in other cultures, they would just rip it off with their teeth. So what does that mean? In Vaishnav culture, be more consistent, but you go from one country to the next, there's certain things which are considered very nice in one country that are considered very impolite in other countries. And a lot of companies now, before they send someone into another country, they have training, teaching them things they shouldn't say, things they shouldn't do, things they should do and they should say. So they don't go and just, blow everything, ruin everything. So Prabhupada said, cultural conquest. This is how he was preaching to Swarup Damodar Maharaj. Not only the scientific, but he said cultural content, cultural conquest, because he was from Manipur, which has a lot of Vaishnava culture, a lot of traditional culture, dance and art and stuff that's still intact. And he did that. He had these Manipur dancers, they dance like unbelievable, and play their mridanga, do cartwheels and keep the beat all the time. And he would go to different countries, and even he was at Disney World for some time in their cultural museum spray or something, and showing this Manipur culture, which is, it's not exactly Vaishnava culture like we have, but it's very close. We haven't been there so long. So devotees have been in and out, some grew. Now it's become very, very big. But music, philosophy, spiritual culture, cultivating character of the devotees. All these heavenly contributions combined together will bring about a major change in the life of the Western people. So Prabhupada really wanted this cultural. So we're doing that. We're presenting kirtan. We're presenting nice dancing for Krishna's pleasure, not what Prabhupada called dog dancing. Dog dancing is all over the world, televisions, clubs, it's everywhere. Indian movies more than anywhere else. So that's like, the basic, everything that's in this lesson 1. How to apply it is we have to behave properly. We have to think about it, when we don't, how you say, respond rather than react. General Western culture, mode of passion culture, mode of ignorance is if somebody's talking to us, we don't listen to them, we just want to talk ourselves. So we just start talking and then think, why don't they listen to me? Or, many things like that. So we have to apply. Whenever we meet people, we have to be very cultured people. In every country, there are people that are basically sattvic, predominantly sattvic. It's impossible, nobody's pure sattvic, but So let's, if you have a question or comment, I'd like to get some guidance what to go on to next year. We're not supposed to be like a king, Vedic culture. When a king conquers some area, he's not meant to destroy the previous culture. Like nowadays America wants to do, they want to go and topple the government and install their version of what they think is a good government, better for the people. And they're not supposed to go in and destroy the culture. When we go to foreign countries, we try to add, Krishna culture, chanting the holy name, vegetarianism, cleanliness, rising early, Vaishnav culture, but we don't have to destroy their own culture. What type of marriage ceremonies they have, or funeral ceremonies, or different things like that. Unless it's something very detrimental to chanting the holy name, we just have to we want to purify everybody, to purify their habits, their so-called cultural habits, and eating meat, or whatever they do. So I'm going to take a 2-minute break, and we can think about questions. I hope somebody took a few notes. Culture, it's a big topic. We are a cult. Chaitanya cult, Prabhupada uses that word quite often. But now if you say cult, people think this is a horrible thing, eating meat. I think I saw in the Nigerian newspaper a lot about cults, dangerous cults, and how we have to watch out. But that's not the real meaning of cult.
Thanks, Guru Maharaj. There's some few hands up. If you want to take some questions. Thanks, Guru Maharaj. Okay.
The 2 minutes, he said you want to utilize it for something. Maybe you want to go to the washroom straight up, something like that. So.
Oh, okay, Father. Okay, Father. So if you have a question, you can just raise up your hand so that we can take you accordingly when Guru Maharaj returns, based on what he has.
May we appreciate the presence of His Holiness Bhaktisiddhanta Damodar Bhakti Chaudhry Maharaj for giving us the grace and for giving us his darshan and for giving us his mercy. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Okay, I
We are-
got cut again.
We are honored.
It's evening time here, and I think too many people are using the internet, so it gets cut off every once in a while.
Guru, I have some question, and Stephen Govinda is up. I don't know. No, take question.
Nothing in the chat.
No, the hand is up.
Okay, Stephen, how can we help you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavad Pranams. Yes, please. Indeed, culture is a very broad topic, and I'm glad to join this class. And through your explanation, a whole lot of things have been popping up in my mind. So I like to inquire. Recently, I came to realize that as a devotee, you don't have to pay obeisances when the altar is closed. And the most common one that I know, that you don't have to step on a prasad. So that's being a devotee. And being an African, we have different type of culture too. Like if you are the firstborn of your parent, automatically you become the second parent, where you have to help your parent take care of your siblings. And also being the firstborn, you have to bath your parent corpse. Like you have to bath the dead body as in a form of culture. And Maharaj, there's a whole lot. So my question is, as a Vaishnava, how can you break some of this culture effectively? Like, or what should be the right attitude in breaking some of these cultures, in able not to distract your spiritual life? Hare Krishna.
Okay, well, good question. We have, in every country we go, there are cultural things like that. So we have to go along with them. We're not trying to destroy the culture, unless there's something that destroys, your own devotional activities. Like, of course, in so many countries, the culture is eating meat for the common people, but so we don't go that far. But as far as, your duties as the firstborn child or something, if we just say, no, we don't do that, in Vedic culture, that's also true. I don't know, in Africa, in Vedic culture, the firstborn son inherits everything. It's not split up among all the brothers. It all goes to the first son. He becomes the father. He becomes the king, generally, unless he's completely unqualified, in different ways. And the younger sons are supposed to respect him in the same way as they would respect their father. Western culture, like I said, when Gandhi said, "What do you think?" They asked Gandhi, "What do you think of Western culture?" He said it would be nice if they had some. There's no real culture. It's just a big mix-up. So there's a lot of clashes. So generally, in India, people will marry within their own gotra. In Africa, probably, is that true that they try to marry within the same tribe traditionally? Does that go on there also in your countries? Not anymore.
Yes, some tribes do.
Yeah, because people then they're similar and they have similar habits and similar values, and then they should be able to get along better. Now, when everybody mixes up, it becomes very difficult, and the children don't have any culture. But then, if someone's a devotee, they can rise above it. So we've had several cases of devotee's father dying, and they were the oldest son. So somehow or other, they have to take care of the funeral. And they can't just say, no, I'm a Hare Krishna, I can't do that. And then Hare Krishna will be condemned among so many people who hear about that. So it becomes not preaching, So devotees, they take those responsibilities. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. in Bali and Indonesia, we have a lot of trouble with so-called culture. Their traditions, devotees have to, get pushed into all kinds of sinful things they want them to do. But usually they can avoid it by being very, very friendly or giving a lot of money. So those kind of things, see, the African, they have culture, and it's more closely to Vedic culture, the African traditional, than say Christianity or Muslim as it's known today. Because the Vedic culture was all over the world at one time, but it's not exactly the same everywhere. There's differences. Can't dress exactly the same everywhere. You have to dress according to the climate. You can't build exactly the same houses everywhere because of the building materials that are available or the geography. But other things you can maintain. But the main essence of any culture is respect and love for each other, and for not only for each other, but love for the land. Not like the Bhagavatam says, Boma Ijadi, those who think that their land of their birth is worshipable, they're like cause dogs and they're like cows and asses. They're not very intelligent. But having love for the land, love for the, in other words, to protect the land, to cultivate it, not burn it out like modern farming. They grow the same food over and over again on the same land. Just keep dumping more and more artificial chemicals into it to make it produce. But you have to cultivate the land and grow things that keep the land, it's a whole science that scientists know, rotating the crops, mixing up different crops all in the same area, and they all produce different nutrients. Like I was in the eco village in India, and they're trying to show how you can live on 1 acre land. So they're growing many, many different things. And I asked them, what's this growing over here? And they said it was hemp or something. I said, well, you're making cloth because you can make really good cloth. But they said, no, we're just doing it because it's good for the soil. Some plants put back nutrients into the soil. Some take it all out. So if they're just trying to grow some, valuable crop, like for instance, tobacco, that's not an issue. In Africa, people are intelligent enough not to smoke cigarettes. But in the West, tobacco just takes everything out of the land. And so the land becomes almost useless after they grow, but the crop is very valuable. And the palm oil trees, they also deplete the land. So you have to plant other things that feed the land. In a society of people, a culture, you have to have all kinds of people. If you have only Brahmins, who's going to build the Brahmin's house? Who's going to build the altars? Who's going to make the brass paraphernalia? Who's going to grow the food? If everybody's only ringing bells and chanting mantras, unless they're just totally renounced Paramahansas that don't need to really sleep and eat, but otherwise they need sudras, they need vaishyas, to build things. Okay, we have a big crowd. This is one of the biggest I've seen. I have been.
Abraham, your hand was up. You have a question for Guru Maharaj, please. You can
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question has been answered, but I want to see if it's properly I'm correct, because in Africa, you have so many cultures, and we are into the Vedic culture. What I want to say is that is it possible that Vedic culture and African culture can be the same, or should I ignore the African culture?
Not
when I'm into
exactly
the
the
Vedic culture?
same, but similar. They believe in God very strongly. Even some places we see the senior, they're not called Brahmin, I don't know what, but they shave their head, they wear a robe, and it's very similar to, sannyasi or something. And they're respected. But there's a lot of similarities because it hasn't been the so-called Western, so-called Christians, or Muslims, they just make it a purpose to destroy the previous culture. So almost any culture in the world, they have the idea of demigods and the supreme God, and a different concept of time. It's not linear, it's more circular, and care for the environment, not exploiting the environment, making things last, not taking more than you need, understanding everything belongs to God, whatever you call him. And the Kali Yuga is trying to, destroy that cultural thing. So I would have it. But it's good to study ancient cultures and understand Vaishnav culture. But Vaishnav culture is respect for elders. That's basically taught everywhere. But what's not being taught is the other side, that the elders, those in a higher position, the brahmanas or whatever, the government, they also have to respect downline. There has to be mutual. Husband and wife have to respect each other and consider other people's opinions, and maybe not the same as yours, but they may be equally as valuable or more valuable. And definitely they mean more to that person. So if we care about a person, then we'll care about what they say they need.
Any
Okay,
other question?
We've got some exalted guests here. Chaitanya Prema, Professor. Salika, Professor. Bhakti Chardeshna, very popular traveling preacher. Very renounced, cultured person. And everyone else too, but these are just people I've dealt with enough to know them a little bit. If you want an example of a real cultured Vaishnav, Chardeshna Maharaj is definitely one of them. At least the behavior he is in front of me. So, Vaishnav culture, what's our attitude? What's our, Trinadapi Sunichana Torapi Sishana Manina Manadina Kirtaniya Sari. Feeling oneself more tolerant than a tree, humble than a blade of grass, ready to offer all respects to others without expecting anything in return. And these are stated by many people. And it's basically a summary of, what Krishna describes as activities in the mode of goodness, in the Bhagavad Gita. Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim. I don't want wealth, I don't want beauty, not wanting anything, trying to use what we have. Krishna has given us so much that we don't use it. Okay, I'm waiting. Everybody feels, anybody know of any devotees that they consider uncultured? Don't name anyone, but just raise your hand if sometimes you feel that way. Because even if you're both in the same tribe or even in the same family, two people may have totally different ideas of what is their particular culture of their family or their tribe or their country, even though they're grown up together, go to the same schools and everything. So it's very hard to define exactly what is the culture, but it's essentially it's not the external, but they're important. The language, the feller speed.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, I'm waiting. Okay, Gopal
Please,
Blank.
this is Gora Gopal. Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance. I want to know if there is a difference between Vedic culture and Vaishnava culture.
Simultaneously one and different. Any kind of culture, there's, Vedic culture includes a lot of things that Vaishnavas don't stress on. And Vaishnavas will stress more on worship of Krishna, whereas Vedic culture, there's like the Vedas, there's a lot of stress on fruitive gain, demigod worship, things like that, which Vaishnavas know about, but it's not so much stressed. So there's differences. Vaishnava is a part of Vedic culture. What is Vedic culture? I'm not sure anybody knows exactly. I've heard yes, many of what I see devotees, especially Indian, they're talking Vedic culture, but all they're going by is basic Hinduism in the last few hundred years, not real Vedic history. We have no idea really exactly. We get some idea from reading Krishna book or reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's only 500 years ago. You get some idea what culture is. It's a serious thing, not that easy to throw out. Bobby or Salika, you can say something on that topic? Salika scholar.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Like you come
Hare
from
Krishna.
Muslim, so there's some kind of culture there, but not the same as what Muslim culture was in Muhammad's family or something, probably. And different countries claim to be Muslim, and they may have completely different cultural norms. Same thing with Hindu, Vedic, so-called Vedic. Vaishnav maybe is more, the basic things more defined, basic values. Okay, so Sally, go ahead. Okay, I'm still online. I'm kind of thinking of when it's going to go off, but it looks like we got over that glitch. Okay, Salika, how about Chaitanya Prema? He usually has a lot to say about something.
Salika Prabhu, unmute yourself. Guru Maharaj is asked you to say something if you want to say. Chaitanya Prabhu, you are there also.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your kind message upon us. Agoshi Prabhupada. Well, I really don't have much to say. What I can understand is over time, I've realized that the culture of the soul is the most authentic culture that we have seen, because most of what is called culture, especially looking from the African context, we see that there are some reflections of what is being copied over the years from different concepts or traditions of people who have lived in the past. And then when we trace back, specifically when you were discussing Maharaj, I was just reflecting from my local tribe, what we call the Yoruba tribe. Recently, I was doing a research, and I found out that what we were calling the Yoruba culture was something that is traced to Vedic culture. And then it is amazing to see that this that we're calling Yoruba culture actually is something that is found there in the Vedic culture, which is the most ancient culture. So my realization in recent time is that different cultures that we see across the globe are some different level of acceptance or practice of Vedic culture, but maybe covered in different degrees. That's my realization.
Chaitanya Prabhu, you have something to say? Bhakti Share Radeshna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Hare Krishna Bhujis.
Yeah, I don't know if you have that. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, actually, this is a very nice topic because most of the time, especially in Africa, when we go on preaching, people they ask us that why do you abandon your African culture to follow Indian culture? Is what they generally ask us. But from what Maharaj has explained, and before we know for in ISKCON, that is, we have the original culture, just like Salika Prabhu just mentioned that the culture of the soul is the original culture. And if we want to follow that culture, then automatically it will follow the other cultures. And one thing also we have observed in Africa is that, for instance, in my tradition, it is not good when the children, they sit cross-legged, like in the lotus posture. So one time I asked my mother why we should not do like that. She told me that because in the previous ages, in the ancient time, when the people they sit like this, they go to the forest and they leave the family. They become yogis. Yeah. So many things that we do in Africa, this is also similar with Vedic culture. So and I can say that Africa we have this advantage. Only killing animals, that is the problem. Otherwise, many things that we do in Vedic culture, it is a bit similar to let's say African culture. Yes, this is my contribution. Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. All has been said. But just as a matter of response to the requests, I will also say the same thing, that actually the original culture is the Vedic culture. And over time, there is disintegration. And the same culture, the one culture has become fragmented in different areas according to time, place, and circumstances. This same, it become perverted Vedic culture. So if we rewind everything back to its originality, we still arrive at the Vedic culture. So there is only one culture, which is the culture of the soul, the culture of surrender, the culture of recognizing elders, the culture of recognizing God. Yes, like in Africa, our elders, they knew about demigods worship. And this demigod worship is universal. And over time, it has been adulterated and it has become like something else now. But Vedic culture is the original culture, and we are all part of it. Only one human race, only one culture, which is Vedic culture, and only one God, who is Krishna. Everyone else is his servant. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all. Guru Maharaj, you want to say something to conclude today's section?
No, I'm satisfied.
Okay, Guru Maharaj.
It's a simple subject, I guess, but like I said, when I looked it up on the internet, so many papers are written, but these scholars, they have to fill up the pages. So that's why people sell these 10-minute books or something, where you get out the essence of the whole book without reading for 6 hours a day for a week. So everything is there, but we have a culture of, rising early, keeping clean. These are basic things. Chanting the holy name, of course, serving the devotees, taking care of ourselves also because we're devotees. If we so-called sacrifice our own health and our own life just for the sake of helping others, it may not be good for anybody because we'll end up wiped out, finished, right? So sick or, dying of age. So we have to take care of everyone. But taking care is not just food and shelter. We're living life of Vaishnavas. That's cultured and just to do the activities of Vaishnava. But the thing we hear the most is, well, respect is a big word, but it doesn't always say respect. It says, don't, do not offend devotees. That means respect devotees. If I offend someone, I don't respect them. I think they're lower than me. I think they need my chastity. They need to know that they're no good. We have no respect. Bhaktisiddhanta is saying, very far out about what is humility. And he was saying, sometimes I feel like God has given everybody else devotional service but me, and why is he leaving me out, But then other times I feel like nobody is serving ever except me. We go back and forth like that. But then it's my duty to try to uplift others, but not to put them down so we can put myself up. That doesn't work. So if anybody just, the lesson topics, definition of Vaishnava culture, essential principles of application of Vaishnava culture. Who can say something about that? Kavi, you must be ready.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Definition of Vaishnava culture, like you mentioned in the beginning, you read so many definitions, and you say culture means to cultivate, and you give the different angles according to Wikipedia to grow. And so in generally, what we do constantly, that become our culture. So that's what I can say about that for now, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, then just the question about, different countries. So say like in India, especially, and I think probably in Africa, I know in Japan with the Buddhists, if someone dies, generally the older brother or the older sister, they're supposed to take care of a lot of the things. And so they have these shraddhas, different ceremonies, rituals for the deceased and for the family. And sometimes it's very costly. And the priests are charging, it becomes a big business. So Vaishnav culture does not include those things. We know it's not necessary. You chant Hare Krishna, hopefully you can sprinkle some Ganga water, and everything is perfect. You burn the body, finished. Kirtan. But so we, say you're in some particular culture, we're trying to preach, people don't know what. So if we just say, no, we don't do that, we're Vaishnavas, then it's going to really hurt our preaching. So we do it, not thinking that we have to do this to go back to Godhead, but we're thinking we have to do this so that we don't disturb the minds of the less intelligent, and we can make them feel comfortable around us so that when we do preach to them, they might listen to us. So, we can't be fanatic. No, we don't do this. It's not my culture. Certain things we have to be. We don't eat meat. We don't drink whiskey and things like that. That we can be strong, and that's a religious principle. But these other social, cultural things, we have to be careful to go to honor them so that we can live comfortably within a particular culture group.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
I'm just looking at the topics here. The print is so small. Most files, I can enlarge it, but in this particular PDF, it doesn't work.
You want to see the other topics that will come up, Guru Maharaj?
Well, that's from different classes.
Yes, different classes.
Yeah, I looked. So this is a beginning, and
yeah, we are going to have 5 more speakers. So next Saturday will be next Bhaktivedanta Damodara Maharaj will be talking about Vaishnava etiquette in formal venues. Then after that, we have the coming Saturday after that, we have His Grace Srinivas Vanachari will be speaking of Vaishnava cleanliness. Then His Holiness Bhakti Chaudhary Maharaj will be talking about Prasadam Seva. And then Chaitanya Prema Prabhu will be talking about Vaishnava dress. And Ganga Prasad Prabhu will be talking about respect in Vaishnava society.
So another quick definition of Vaishnava culture is just service attitude, With a servant, you have to, if we consider a Vaishnava, real Vaishnava considers himself the servant of everyone. But sometimes a servant, like Prabhupada, he was a strict leader of the society and demanding a lot, but as a service to the members of society, not as a service to his own false ego to be the controller or something, but he wanted to be the controller as a service to the people to help them purify their life.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Mother Sudha Bhakti's hand is being up, so you can give her the chance to say.
You can unmute yourself and say what you want to say, Mother.
Yeah,
Sudha Bhakti, Mother.
Humble inquiry and service.
All right. Please offer my respectful obeisance to you. Please, Maharaj, I have two questions to ask. First, it goes to difference between African culture and Indian culture about habits of eating. You know, when it comes to Africa, we eat swallow food and swallow food, and it looks like it's in the mood of ignorance. And when you go to Indian culture, dal, rice, chapati, all those stuff is the mood of goodness. So it used to be a little bit disturbances to me. And we are an African also. We are not Indians, but you just follow the Indian culture. And second question is about in Indian marriage and African marriage. When it comes to Indian, the most of the expenses it goes to the man's family, and when it comes to Africa, it goes to the woman family. And when it comes to Africa, the man you have to take care of everything. So when he became a devotee, it became a little bit understanding among of us. So Maharaj, those are my little question I want to know more. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mother. Your questions are very powerful. They are very heavyweight questions. Let's wait for Guru Maharaj.
I'd like to answer that.
Guru Maharaj, you said?
Who would like to comment or answer that?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Let me try Guru Maharaj. So thank you very much, Mother. Mother Sudabhakti. Like the question you asked. Like I remember sometime when Guru Maharaj used to come to the Africa, Nigeria, he always encouraged us to cook those sattvic quick you are talking about, and in a way to encourage us to, to come to that what you just mentioned about mode of goodness, because about when we eat in the mode of goodness naturally affect everything. But after some time, he started encouraging us also, you can cook your own African food and offer to the deities, because he saw that it's like these people, they are not Indians, and they are not used to this kind of food. And so by encouraging them to cook their own food and offer to Krishna, it actually become transcendental. And that on itself can elevate their consciousness. So he started encouraging us, okay, cook whatever you have for Krishna and become transcendental. In that way, you can continue to keep up your devotional service. So it's not about you forcing us to eat Indian culture food. No, we can offer whatever food of our own culture to Krishna, because our food
whatever food, but nice goodness.
Yeah, nice in the mode of goodness. Sorry, Guru Maharaj. But not so. At least whatever basic food we have that is nice. It has to be nice and presentable. Krishna mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So we should not cook food in the mode of untouchable things and all those things. Krishna has mentioned. So like Guru Maharaj mentioned, it has to be nice. It has to be looking nice. Even though if it's African food, it has to be looking nice. Then we can offer it to Krishna and become transcendental. So, and in terms of marriage, everything is mixed up, just like you asked rightly. Everything is mixed up because you see an African person want to perform marriage. He's doing white garment marriage. He's doing traditional marriage. He doesn't even know which one he has to do. In that way, spending so much money. So the same thing also, devotees are doing the same thing. They will do traditional marriage. They will do court wedding. They will now come and do Indian one. Sometimes we just have to use our intelligence and apply properly, So if you think that the African marriage is what you want to do, you go ahead and do it as long as you do it in front of Krishna, offer it to Krishna. If you think you want to do the Vedic culture marriage, it's okay, do it. As long as Krishna is, put Krishna in between. But Bhajita Swami Maharaj mentioned rightly, court marriage is for the whole country itself. So devotees, officially, you can do the court marriage so that you can be officially married as in your country, which is very good for any document things to be done. So the other one, they are just extraordinary, they are additional. Guru Maharaj, that's the best I can explain. Maybe you have something to add, Guru Maharaj.
And then again, there's 50 different countries in Africa. And I don't know how many tribes, and I don't know, somebody said a bigger number. I saw something was telling the languages in Africa. Nigeria has like 245 languages or something. And so it's not that there's African culture exactly, you know. And so most people identify with their tribe. And in Nigeria, they're trying very big to get you to think I'm a Nigerian, not an African, you know. Indian people identify, they'll say, where are you from? I'm from India, but they really, because they think nobody knows what is Gujarat, what is Maharashtra, so they'll just say India, but they don't identify so much as an Indian, they identify as whatever their native language is, you know, whatever state they were born in. So, and then the food is much different. And there's Indian restaurant, Indian seafood, you know, whereas in general, you know, Indian food we kind of think is mostly vegetarian, but there's a lot of other Indian food also. And African food, like I would say, I saw a lot of nice things on the street, you know, the baked potatoes and corn and stuff. That's, you know, completely nice as long as it's cooked on a clean grill. Not that they're cooking the meat on the same grill and then cooking the potato on top of it or something. But, you know, Prabhupada, they ask him what about, I don't know if they ask about American because there's no American food, but Chinese, Indian, Italian, you know, they have kind of things that are noted to be that, but like, you know, Italian means spaghetti and pizza and noodles and stuff. But Prabhupada said that's not the point, that it's Indian food or African food or Nigerian food or Ghanaian food or something, but it's the mode of goodness, you know, sattvic. Because every so-called culture, they have a sattvic section, they have a tamasic section. So we're looking for the culture of goodness, which is described in the Bhagavad Gita, and everyone should study, you know, acting in the mode of goodness, giving charity in the mode of goodness, giving, you know, talking in the mode of goodness, all those things. Then we'll make a lot of progress and, you know, be admired, and people want to be like that because people in the mode of goodness see the good in everyone and treat everyone as part and parcel of God and brothers and sisters, no matter what tribe they're from or what color of skin they have or what language they speak. And most people, you know, they're attached to their so-called native, but like I always heard everybody saying gari or cassava, or whatever you call it, is our native food. But it came from Brazil only a few hundred years ago. It's not African native food, but now it's native food. McDonald's comes from America, but Japanese think it's Japanese food. You don't have McDonald's in Africa. You know, just have fast food. You have something with a different name, imitation. All right. And dress also now, you know, everybody, when I first came to Africa, most of the women were wearing, you know, African cloth and I don't know what you call it there, a sarong, you know, the wraparound skirt and a shawl. And so from the back, when I would see them walking, it looked like a sari. And now I hardly ever see that. Tight jeans, you know, tight shirts, half naked, you know, completely different. There was a lot more nice culture back even 30 years ago. It's getting lost, you know, by the influence of Kali. So that type of culture is common. The exact way of dressing is not exactly the same, but the idea of modesty is always in proper culture. You know, shyness, modesty, courtesy, you know, all those things. These are the things we should look for. But a lot of people, they throw out all the good parts of their culture and they just keep the gross things and think this is our culture. And not everybody will agree. So those quotes I read, it said, you know, scholars say it's one of the most ambiguous, difficult to define what exactly is culture. But I would say Vaishnava culture means mode of goodness, striving to act in the mode of goodness, keeping Krishna in the center. All right?
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
So it's
All right.
time up.
Hare Krishna.
All right, the questionnaire is getting awake now.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. So we really want to appreciate you for your time.
Thank you.
We learned a lot. And Sitan Prabhu, we want to say something, but one thing I would like to say is that next weekend, His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Damodar Maharaj will be speaking, and so we want devotees also to come back next weekend. Hare Krishna. So let us appreciate Guru Maharaj by loudly chanting Hare Krishna.
Next week it'll be a different time, right?
We have to confirm that with Bhaktivedanta Maharaj also, if he's staying in Nigeria. If he's in, if he comes to India, then maybe we have to change it to your timing, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Let us chant Hare Krishna mantra to appreciate Guru Maharaj for his time.
Hare
Hare Krishna Chaitanya.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Hare.
Oh,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama.
Hare Hare.
His Holiness Kavicandra Swami Maharaj ki jai.
5, 23, very good. Let's keep it up.
Hare
More and more every time. Thank you for coming, Salika. Especially the
Hare
big
Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your blessings.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, we are very grateful that you give us your darshan. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Gopal
Hare Krishna.
Blankson, is that? It's
Gopal Das.
yeah. But Blankson, that's what's the family? Famous
That is the
family.
family name, yes.
Famous family of Ghana, right? Blankson.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Okay.
Great.
Oranga.
Almost.
Auranga. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.